Today would be a good day for it because it's No King's Eve. Hi, Shan. Thanks to anybody joining me on any platform. So yeah, this is such a big moment, and I really am excited to see people here. It's No King's Eve, and it's been an insane week. And I want to talk about why I am so excited for tomorrow. How many cameras? I have 2 cameras pointed at me, so that's why I'm going back and forth. Sorry, I wish there was one platform that had them all, but I haven't gotten that yet. So tomorrow's No Kings. I want to hear about where you guys are all going, and I want to talk about why this is just, as far as like pushing back on authoritarianism, I want to talk about why this is like the single most important thing that we can do. And I know some of you, probably a lot of you, have heard about the concept of the 3.5% rule. And I talked to Maxwell Frost about it yesterday on an interview. And like, this is something that organizers tend to know about, but people who are just busy living their lives as people should be, maybe don't know about it. And the concept behind it is that once you can get 3.5% of a population in a country that is under authoritarian rule, which we are now, like that is the other crazy thing, is that like we are now, the consensus worldwide is that the United States is now essentially under authoritarian rule, that it is slipping, has slipped. And that's wild. Like, how many of us thought that we were going to live in a dictatorship in our lives? I didn't. This is not on my bingo card. And there's no good news about that. Like, it's very scary. It's very upsetting. People are being really tortured, unalived. Horrible things are happening. However, or not even however, here's the and. The and is that dictatorships have been overthrown before. I was on a presentation a couple days ago where they were talking about Pinochet, East Germany, South Korea. This is something that there's many times that this has happened, and dictatorships are overthrown. And from what I have seen of history, it is almost always peaceful. You can't go up against a heavily armed authoritarian regime with weapons. It's just not going to work. You do it peacefully. And that is what we are doing. So getting back to the 3.5% rule, Erica Chenoweth has done a great deal of study on this with some other scholars. And what they have found is that once you can get about 3.5% of a population consistently engaged in peaceful protest, in an ongoing way. Now, this is the thing. It's like, it's not one time. It's not like we're going to do this protest and everything is going to be fine. It has got to be consistent and ongoing. But once you can get 3.5% of the population engaged, doing things like boycotting, doing things like general strikes, doing things like peaceful protests, local demonstrations, for example, when ICE is there, that is when you see regime change. So we don't know exactly what it will look like, how it will unfold, but that is how it works. And the great thing is that we have had, 3, 4 of these really big protests, and then, God knows how many smaller ones, ongoing in Chicago, ongoing in Portland. They were here in LA when ICE was really bad here. We have the first No Kings. We had Hands Off. There was something before Hands Off. We've had Kimmel. We've had, what else? Oh, all of the Tesla takedowns. I mean, there's been a lot of protests so far, but this is the kind of thing that is effective, that works. And the reason that it works is because this administration is sort of operating on this illusion of popularity, and it's not popular and never has been. Trump uses the words that he won in a landslide, but when you just look at the facts, that's factually false. And in fact, it was an historically close election. And since then, so he squeaked by in a victory, and then since then, he has plummeted in popularity. His approval ratings are terrible. And I talk about this every week, but it's important. And Heather Cox Richardson just also talked about why is it important that his approval ratings are low? Because at a certain point, if he's popular, if he's doing things that everybody loves, if he's winning on the economy, it's really hard to dislodge an authoritarian who's doing things that the populace as a whole really likes. And often the authoritarians who have been really successful were successful at the economy for a while. Or in El Salvador, we saw this person come in and like really plummet the crime rates. I mean, he did it by locking up an insane number of people, but people were very happy about that. And so they tolerated the other stuff, or he sort of got real comfortable in office and then slowly did the other stuff. Trump has no impulse control, and, you know, he's got really dumb and incompetent people working for him. And so I'm not going to say it's his mistake, but what he's doing is he's doing too much too soon. It's brutal. It's not effective. He's tanking the economy. Today we found out that tariffs are going to cost the U.S. economy $1.2 trillion. And guess who is paying 2/3 of that? American consumers. So the companies will pay 1/3 of it, and U.S. consumers will pay 2/3 of it. So if someone wants to figure out what 2/3 of $1.2 trillion is, that is the tax increase that has hit us, regular Americans, this year, while the rich Americans, the richest Americans, got a huge tax cut. So that's what's happened, is that taxes have shifted from the rich to the working class and the poor. And meanwhile, $4 to $5 trillion added to our deficit. The rich have gotten like a $4 trillion tax cut, and our healthcare system is being gutted. So Americans are not stupid. There are some people who are so in the tank for Trump that they can't see reality, but most Americans see it very clearly. And so they are going to come out because they're unhappy, because our economy is doing terribly. Meanwhile, our communities are being ripped apart by ICE, who is not focusing on criminals. Is something like 70 to 80% of the people who are in detention have no criminal convictions of any kind and have never been charged with anything. And then the numbers of people who have been detained who are citizens are staggering. And we all see the videos. The administration can't hide those videos from us. We see pregnant women being sent to the hospital. We see teenagers having their faces forced into the floor. Last week, ICE shot and killed someone's dog for no reason. They didn't even encounter resistance. The dog was locked in a bathroom. And ICE just shot and killed it because they could. They're smashing windows. They're wrecking people's cars. They are absolutely and 100% unaccountable to anybody. And Trump thinks that he can just sort of do this. But Americans are, you know, we disagree on all kinds of stuff, but Americans are really into their freedom, right? That is one thing Americans have come to take for granted. People argue about what that means, but people universally want the freedom of speech. They want the freedom of assembly. They want to be free to vote. They want to be free to peacefully protest. So Donald Trump wants to take these things away from us. And because of all of that, I think what you're going to see is a surprising number of people who are out in the streets tomorrow peacefully saying we want to go back to a free country. It's one thing for us to disagree with each other. It is another thing for a person to set himself up as a king who is accountable to no one. This is what the fucking revolution was fought over, right? The framers fought and risked their lives in order to no longer have a king, but instead to have a constitutional republic, you know, a representative democracy. So, and the thing that I find encouraging, although it's intimidating and a little scary, but like the administration, they've never really given much thought or attention to these protests before, but they are so freaked out by them this time. And that's why we've seen Mike Johnson bring it up over and over again, Carolyn, Burning Cross Levitt, Donald Trump, John Thune. They're all talking about it because they are freaked out. They are afraid. They are afraid that they are, you know, they know what's happening. They see the writing on the wall. The Americans hate them. And you can't really successfully continue an authoritarian regime once the majority of the country has turned against you. So we're going to have to be brave, because they're going to do what they know how to do, is generate fear. So you can see it. I've seen it over the last week, but we, to some extent, see this before every protest. There's accounts that start to talk about, how just, there's all kinds of stuff. And I've seen it before every single one. Thank you. It's going to be dangerous. Don't go. There's going to be infiltrators in the crowd. And, it's not to say that, like, nothing is without danger. Even sitting home in my house, tree could fall on my house. I don't know. Every time we get in the car, it's extremely dangerous. So no one can say like anything is entirely without risk. But I have been to, I don't know, I'm going to say conservatively 50 protests in the last 8 years. And that's really conservative. I want to say it's a lot more, but let's just be conservative. And it's just joyful. I mean, it's not always joyful, because sometimes you're protesting really sad things. In fact, often we are protesting things that are really upsetting. And yet that feeling where everybody comes together and walks and holds signs and dances, and people bring dogs and people bring kids, and there's an incredible feeling of like, oh my God, so many people are with me. It's a beautiful feeling, and the Trump administration is terrified of it. Why? Because the one thing they do not have is love, community, and solidarity, even amongst themselves. These people are so bitter and angry and unhappy. You see these text messages of these young Republicans, some of whom were like 35 years old. I mean, they're young compared to me, but that doesn't make them kids. And they're just filled with bitterness and resentment. Oh, you just think, these people are miserable. And then you look at pictures of them and you're like, oh, they're all incels, of course. But these are very, as I said in the video I did about that this week, these are lonely people because they don't believe in community. They believe in me first. And anybody who has lived that way, anyone who has been through the experience of living in a self-absorbed spiral, and I will tell you that I have, not so much because I've never been a Republican, but I've dealt with addiction. And when you deal with addiction, you become consumed with self. And let me tell you something, it's hell. These people are living in hell because all they can think about is how to get more for me, how to get more power, how to get more money. The people in Trump's administration are competitive with each other. They're always fighting with each other. Each one of them wants more power. And they don't understand what they see. They don't understand organizations who are peacefully working for positive change for people who they don't even know. Republicans don't understand that. Why would you do that? They have literally taught Christians to distrust empathy. These are people who it's the cult of me gone wild. But the thing about being in the cult of me is that you are a miserable human being. And so you don't understand. You don't understand joy. You don't understand people just going out onto the street to peacefully protest. You don't understand people sacrificing their time to work for something bigger than them. This is all a total mystery to them. And so they fear it. And they also fear it because it's a threat to their power. Because ultimately they know that authoritarian regimes don't last. Because people don't want to be ruled over. And in history, no authoritarian regime has lasted forever. Now, you do have some that last a really long time, and that is what we are going to avoid. Because if the people just accept it, you get a Vladimir Putin. There's many other examples of dictators who have been in power for way too long. And what we are doing by turning out tomorrow is ensuring that that is not what happens in the United States, that we don't live under dictatorship for the next 30 years. And this is why we do what we do. This is why I do what I do, because I accept that I am living in a dictatorship right now. I don't like it. I've grown up in a somewhat free country. It's never been free for people of color or LGBTQ people, but relatively free, somewhat free. What they want is no freedoms, and I will be damned if my child is going to grow up in a country with no freedoms, right? And I hope you feel the same. And this is the thing about Americans, is that Americans are idiots in all kinds of ways, myself included, I'm sure. Like, we're annoying people in lots of ways, but we're very defiant. And this, if you look at history, goes back to the very beginning of the colonies. I mean, you can see this going back all the way. Americans are defiant. We don't like to be taxed. That's the taxes also, and the fact that Trump is taxing us so heavily right now. We don't like to be told what to do. We don't like to be restricted. And I think we are going to see more and more and more Americans realizing, oh, well, maybe I liked Trump when he was telling other people what to do, but now he's telling me what to do. Now he's taking away my freedoms, because ultimately it comes for everybody. I'll remind you guys of or something I posted a while ago on Instagram that was about men who are living under the Taliban right now, who are going, oh, well, now, like, we thought they just took away women's rights, but now they're making us do stuff, and realizing that they should have paid more attention, that they should have fought harder when they could. Ultimately, this administration is going to come for everybody. And I mean, they'll even come for half of each other. I mean, you see what Trump is doing to Bolton right now. It's like, why anybody would work for Trump is a total mystery to me, because your chances are about 85% that at some point you will end up in his sights. That's just the way it works with these kinds of people. They are out for themselves. They don't give a shit about anybody. So all of that is to say that the more videos I've seen of Trump aides, Trump and staffers and administration officials saying, these people, these no kings people, they hate America, like really talking about it more. For one thing, I don't think they understand that they are actually publicizing these protests. And it's not an accident that RSVPs have doubled since they started talking, because a lot of Americans maybe weren't aware of them. And then we're like, oh, I'm going to look this up. I want to see what this is. And now they're planning to show up. But also it's a real indicator of how afraid they are. So we have to have the courage, the calmness, and the perceptiveness to be able to look at what they're doing and not be intimidated by it. Remember, these are bullies. And what bullies do when bullies feel threatened, which is all the time, by the way, is to try bullying harder. Because ultimately, anybody who has stood up to a bully knows that the thing about bullies is that they're cowards. And that when you stand up to them, they back down. That is almost the one universal rule of bullies, is that they actually are afraid. They are afraid to fight. They don't actually stand for anything. They're generally not very smart. And they generally, they don't have a lot of friends because they're assholes. And this is what we see with this administration. So they are going to make a lot of noise tonight. They already have been making a lot of noise. Tomorrow they're going to make a lot of noise. But ultimately, we are going to make the most noise of all. We are going to go out. We are going to have peaceful protests. Do you know that there are almost 3,000 now, you guys? 3,000 No Kings protests scheduled all across the country. And I don't know how many, there's 60 overseas. That is remarkable. That people are protesting all across Europe and other places for us, because they understand what a pivotal moment this is, not just for the United States, but for the world. Do you have to register to go? No, you do not. And in fact, nokings.org, you guys, nokings.org, that's where you go and you look up your protest. I would say that most people are not registering. Did I register? I might have. I don't care. I mean, am I flying under the radar? No. But don't register if you don't feel safe. I tend to feel less, and if you want, turn off your phone, do all that stuff. I am a content creator who uses my own name. Everybody knows who I am. So let me take the hit for you. I am not afraid of these fucking people. But if you don't have to, you don't have to register, just show up. You don't have to bring a sign. Just show up. It's great to bring a sign. I know that if I don't have a sign, I feel I don't have a sign. My sign for tomorrow, my husband and I had a long talk about this today. So we've got a couple of very good sign ideas. I'm very happy with them. They're not brilliant, but they're good. My sign, and you guys can steal this for your protests. You can, I'm going to say healthcare, not wealthcare. I think it's good. Okay. I'm not an artist. I'm not going to make some super creative sign, but really, ultimately, that's what we're fighting for in this moment, right? And it's healthcare, not wealthcare. Because ultimately what this administration is an administration focused on wealthcare. You can make that the common thread through every single thing they've done, right? Trump has cut all the clean energy incentives, even though we're in a climate crisis, and it killed hundreds of thousands of jobs. Why? Because he took $500 million from the oil and gas industry. He's bailing out Argentina for $40 billion. Why? Because he and a bunch of very rich donors have billions of dollars invested in the Argentinian economy. And if it crashes, they lose their investments. And this includes BlackRock and a bunch of other big firms, and also Scott Bessent's best friend. You know, they passed a package that extends tax cuts for the richest people in the country and for corporations. Why? Because that's Wealthcare. That's what they care about. How did they pay for it? By cutting our health care, right? Again, like right now, we're in a government shutdown because they won't extend our healthcare premium, the ACA premium subsidies, which literally, if they're not extended, people are going to go bankrupt. People are going to lose their healthcare and die. Like, this is really dire stuff. Why are we not extending them? Because Trump wants that money for ICE, you know, and he wants that money for Argentina. And he wanted to give that money to rich taxpayers. So again, Wealthcare instead of healthcare. And you could go through every single policy. It's all about taking care of the richest people. And if you're on here and you're a troll, like if you're a paid troll from Russia, which some of you are, just, you know, go do your thing. No one can stop you. But if you're someone who's like sincerely a Trump supporter and weirdly on here, I would just ask you to look for one policy that they have passed that doesn't simply help wealthy people. Just tell me any one. I'm very curious because as far as I can see, and I would ask you to tell me from his first term as well, because there wasn't one. They passed one bill in his first term, and it was the tax cuts bill that disproportionately helped rich people. Now, to be fair, that bill, although it did add, what did Trump add? $8 trillion to the deficit. A quarter of our national debt is from Donald Trump's first term, right? 1/4 of it. The first tax cut bill that he passed in 2017 at least gave a tax cut, small, but a tax cut to middle and lower class or working class Americans. This bill, I mean, people across the economic spectrum, right-wing economists, left-wing economists, they're like, oh my God, this is the first tax cut bill we've ever seen that only gives tax cuts to the rich. And literally the poorest Americans are paying more. $1,400 a year more, and that was before the tariffs jacked prices up on everything. We are paying tariffs so that Trump can turn around and give that money to Argentina or to Israel so they can keep bombing Gazans, or to, you know, to ICE so they can keep shooting dogs and arresting American citizens and racially profiling Latino people. It is an insane moment, and that is why Trump and his administration will not succeed. They won't. There is no upside for the American people. And when you take the fact that there's no upside economically, there's no upside from a world peace, are you kidding? We're like starting wars with Venezuela. The war with, Ukraine-Russia war was supposed to be over on day one. Obviously, that's not happening. We maybe have a ceasefire in Israel, although that's already like started to end. And Trump has no plan for what to do about Hamas. So there's no actual plan making. This is a peace deal, quote unquote, that's being put together by real estate people who want to develop Gaza. That is not a plan for peace in the Middle East. That is a plan for me to make money, not me personally, me, the Trump administration. So, you know, we can keep fighting, or we can unify and fight the unbelievably, unspeakably wealthy people who are profiting off of this administration. They are getting rich off of Trump's authoritarianism. Trump is getting rich. Trump's family has made over $3 billion so far in 8 months. Trump alone just made, this week, we just found out he made $1 billion in crypto so far. Guess which industry gave Trump like the most money during his campaign? Maybe it was oil and gas, but crypto would be your runner-up. And they're all profiting now, all of them. But guess who's not profiting? We're not. I don't know about you guys, but I go to the grocery store or out to eat, and I'm just like, you've got to be kidding me. How much is this dinner? And it's like, and it's not like people are struggling. I'm not going to pretend I'm a person who is struggling, like, but Americans are struggling. It's not right. So if we succeed, how do we make sure nothing like this ever happens again? That's a great question. I mean, so I was on this great call the other day, again, with people who were talking about authoritarianism, what did she talk about? She was talking about like the three Earths or the three worlds or the three planet Earths. I don't remember what she called it, but there was like the before time, which is, let's say, before Trump got elected, when we were a democracy, although a very flawed one, but sort of like generally speaking had a rule of law, etc. And now there is our current situation, which is authoritarianism, right? So we're in a dictatorship now. It's really freaky, but if you don't believe that, go look up the definition of dictatorship and just check off the things that Trump is also doing. It's not hard. This is not hard. But then the third planet, the third Earth, or the third whatever, is where we go next. And that's where I want people to spend time there. A little bit of time remembering that when everything falls apart here, and it will, because everything Trump is doing is designed to crash our economy. I just read something today about how the number of people he's deporting is going to cause a worker crisis, the likes of which this country has never seen. And it will also shrink our GDP by about 0.5% a year. And we knew this. We knew this before the election, but it's happening. So everything is going to crash. We've got a CDC that no longer functions, a FEMA that no longer functions, an EPA that no longer functions. I don't say that to scare you. That's just the fact, right? I just read a thing today about how they have just taken a whole bunch of people from our cybersecurity division. I think it's called CISA, C-I-S-A. You should Google this. And they're doing now paperwork for ICE. So the people who are supposed to be monitoring our government cybersecurity are now doing paperwork for ICE. Meanwhile, our social security numbers are in an insecure cloud server still because of Doge. So I don't mean to scare you guys. It's just to say that a lot of shit could go very, very badly and will. We don't know what that will look like. So when everything falls apart, and again, like I have a history of addiction, like I have a long story that involved hitting a lot of very terrible bottoms. But part of what you learn when you hit horrible bottoms is that when it looks like you've lost everything, and when it looks like your life is over, and you hit this moment where you feel like you have hit rock bottom and there is no future, like sometimes that is actually a moment, if you choose to allow it to be, if you choose to let go of the old ways and ask for help and look at new ways, where you can actually create something magnificent. And we have got all of these young leaders coming forward. Now, none of them are perfect. And I again, as I often do, you guys, I'm 57 years old. I'm going to sound like a mom here for a second, but we cannot expect perfection from any of them. These are not going to be perfect people. They're going to disappoint us. There is a question as to the degree of their imperfection. Zoran Mamdani apparently has already disappointed some people on the left. I don't even know why. It's very exhausting to watch purists in politics insist that people be perfect when there are no perfect people. But, you know, the guy from Maine, Graham, like whatever, there's some stuff coming out about him, like more will be revealed. Ultimately, we have to sort of say, like, do the positives well outweigh the negatives? Because we're never going to find someone perfect. We have to look at, you know, we have to put everything in balance. But we have young, incredible people coming up the pike. If people on the left can set aside their need for perfection and work to uplift some of these great young candidates, I think youth is really important. That's why when people are like, you should run for office, I'm like, I'm 57. You don't want me running for office. You want young people who are not stuck in old ways, because we have to reimagine everything. Kathy, the answer to that is yes, but I can't talk about it because it's anonymous. So I keep it really vague. So that's as much as I will say. But we have to reimagine everything, and we can. And the great news is, like, all of these areas of our country that are so broken, healthcare, housing, you know, Jesus, just how to pay your bills, income inequality, there are solutions. There are people who have been working on this. There are incredible think tanks that have got ideas, ways to deal with it, ways to increase taxes on billionaires so that we can pay for the things that we need. And I want to remind you guys again, we were 2 votes away from passing paid family leave during President Biden's administration. Whatever we may think about some of the huge mistakes he made, That guy passed a lot of really good legislation. He got gun violence legislation passed for the first time in 30 years. He passed the Inflation Reduction Act, which, had Trump not gutted a huge part of it, we would be on a glide path right now to a clean energy future that was creating an explosive number of jobs and cheaper energy. He did all kinds of things. Huge fuck up in the Middle East and other things. But we were close. And we worked so hard on the Build Back Better Act. Oh, you guys, the number of days I worked on getting people to call their reps to pass that bill, which would have been transformative. And again, it was killed by all Republicans, of course, because Republicans will always obstruct progress. But Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, 2 people. Had it not been for them, we would be in a different country right now. And maybe we would have won the election because people would have actually seen the big results they want. So, look, it is a very, very, very terrible, challenging moment right now. I'm so glad that tomorrow is happening because we are going to get such a lift. You will get such a lift from going out and just realizing like, oh, because, they psych us out so much that even I start to feel like, oh, God, is it scary? Should I not go? Every time. And then you go and you're just like, oh, it's just people. This is just good people. Standing up together to say that we deserve better and we want better and we're going to work for better. So we want to imagine a future where things are completely transformed, where the status quo that we're in right now is just gone, like really gone. We need to reimagine. We need to rebuild. We need to not rebuild. We need to build for the first time. Something that this country has always sort of promised but never really delivered for anyone but white rich people, quite frankly. So yeah, it's a tough moment and it's not going to happen overnight. And that's the other thing is that we're going to have to summon our resilience. We are going to have to be strong. We are going to have to be willing to stick with this. We are not going to get results tomorrow. Republicans, I love that. Your poster for tomorrow is "We are not the enemy." That's beautiful. Republicans have been building this for 50 years at least. Since Nixon, they've weaponized crime, weaponized racism, fanned the flames of fear, turned Americans against each other, packed the Supreme Court. This stuff has been going on for a long time. We can undo it. We can undo it, you guys. We have to. This is a massive, massive country. We can't all move to Canada. So what I try to do is look at this as it's a terrible moment, yes. And you never want to just say oh, this isn't a bad moment. Of course it is. It's terrible. Nobody wants to be here. But it is also an opportunity. That sometimes when things get bad enough, you actually have a moment where you can design something new and really beautiful. And I really like to think that the backlash to this moment will bring us to actual comprehensive immigration reform, which the country has needed for 30 years. I want to remind you that we have not passed any kind of immigration legislation in 30 years. I want to say about 93% of that blocked by Republicans. Maybe more. And you can do your own research on this. Don't believe me. But Republicans have wanted immigration to stay broken because when it stays broken, they've got something to weaponize. Fear brown people. But there's a way to fix this. There's a way to solve this. And again, this work has been done. This legislation has been fleshed out. In fact, they tried to pass it during Biden's last year. Or they tried to pass some comprehensive immigration legislation. Remember, Trump said, no, don't sign it. Don't sign on. And so it stayed broken. So we have to pass comprehensive immigration reform. We have to pass Medicare for all or some form of single-payer health care. And it can be done. Don't listen to people who tell you it's impossible. Bullshit. We have to pass paid family leave. There's all these things. But it can be done. It can be done. We've got to do something about housing. I hope whoever runs for president next does a housing moonshot where they say that this is at the center of their campaign, is building housing for Americans. So we've got to pass common sense gun laws or it will just get to a point where this country is physically unlivable. I mean, we're kind of there, but you just can't have this many guns on the streets if people want to continue to be able to have freedom. Ironically, it has curtailed our freedom a great deal. And obviously climate, and again, if you're talking to people who are right-wing, they don't care about climate change because they've been indoctrinated into believing it's not real, and that's sad and it's pathetic, but whatever. But they do believe in saving money. And again, it's really important to emphasize like how much more expensive fossil fuels are and how the rest of the world is moving very, very quickly to clean energy because it's just so much cheaper. And they're literally looking at us like we're fools. We're idiots. Like, all right, US, have fun going back to the horse and buggy there. We are saving money with free wind and solar, which all we have to do is store it. So it's an interesting moment, but I really try to spend some time dreaming of a future that is different. I really try to focus on the wins. And if you guys don't subscribe to my newsletter, thank you for inviting your neighbors to know Kings. If you don't subscribe to my newsletter, it's free and you don't have to subscribe, but every Sunday I do publish a very long list of good news, wins for the week, places where Democrats or people on the left have been victorious, climate victories, environmental victories, and it's really inspiring. Because first of all, the news doesn't cover that. You never see it. And every week people read it and go, oh my God, I had no idea. Like I really had no idea so much good stuff had happened. So temper your doom scrolling with a little bit of, seeking out that good news. And if you don't feel like doing the work, subscribe to my newsletter. It's Chop Wood, Carry Water, Daily Actions. Substack.com, or just go to Substack and look up Jess Craven. I'm on there. And then tomorrow, let's just go. Some of us will be afraid. Some of us will be really excited. Some of us don't know what to expect. Some of us have been to a million protests. Let's just go. Let's wear yellow because we've been told to wear yellow. I know a lot of people have gotten inflatables for this. God, I don't have a moderator on YouTube, so I get to look at the delightful comments from, what are they called? Mouth breathers. Anyway, so go and be joyous and bring a friend and let's make history. Like there is no doubt, none, that tomorrow will be in the history books, that will be a protest that will be in the history books. And you will be able to say to people later, 20, 30 years down the line, I was there. Here's a picture of me. And people will think it's really, really cool and amazing. So anyway, I think that's enough out of me. It's 4:37. I want to thank you all so much. I love that people are bringing bubble guns. I'm seeing, I know people are wearing yellow. People are bringing their signs. Someone said their sign says, we are not the enemy. Remember that people who voted for Trump are welcome. Like if they are realizing they got sold a bill of goods, they're welcome. Doesn't matter your party. You're welcome. You don't have to be, this is not a Democratic march. There's no verbiage anywhere that puts this march with Democrats. This is Americans. You will see more American flags tomorrow than you have seen in a really long time. This is Americans standing up for America, standing up for democracy, standing up for freedom, for equality, for justice, for pluralism. And if you're the mouth breather or anybody else, look it up. You should see what it means. It's important. So I love you guys so much, and I'm sorry, Shannon, I feel like you have to hear this every week, but I'm going to close with what I always say, because I think it's really important, particularly on the eve of this march, is, I'll put a little spin on it, is just imagine people who went and marched in Selma, or who, my friend Heather Booth, who went down and did the Freedom Ride, and went down to Alabama to register voters. Think about people, the suffragettes who went out and marched. Think about everybody who went to the March on Washington. They were afraid. And they had really good reason to be afraid. Really good reason. I'm not saying they had more reason than us, but quite frankly, they did have more reason than us, especially if we're white and citizens. But regardless, like fear is fine. Courage is fear that does it anyway, right? So tomorrow we're going to show up and we are going to be standing on the shoulders of every single person in this country who has ever shown up to a protest, to a town hall, to a voting booth when people did not want them to vote, to run for office, to stand with their union, to protest low wages, any of that. We are standing. Imagine all of them standing around you. Imagine Frederick Douglass standing there with you. Imagine Harriet Tubman standing there with you. Imagine every single person who has done this before us standing there with you in this moment, because this moment is that important. It is. So I am so fucking honored that I'm going to be there, and I'm so unbelievably honored that every one of you will be there with me in spirit. I'll be in downtown Los Angeles. Wherever you are, know that I am with you, and know that everybody who came before, who brought us to this moment, where we could actually do this protest is with you as well. You stand on the shoulders of giants. And someday people will be standing on your shoulders as well. Never forget it. Okay? I love you guys. Love you. Thank you for being here. Have such a great time tomorrow. Send me pictures if you want. My email address is in my link tree. And see you on the streets. Bye.